Canto 13. Summary. As the centaur Nessus returns, Dante and Virgil make their way into the second wheel, which appears to be a dense wood. This is the circle of the suicides and squanderers, those violent against self and their own property. The pilgrim hears a tremendous howling all around him, although he sees no one. The only creatures he sees are the harpies nesting in the barren branches, continually nibbling at the twigs. In order for Dante to understand what is going on, Virgil tells him to break off the end of a branch of one of the trees. Doing so, Dante is taken aback as blood and steam bubble out of the end of the piece in his hand, and with the blood, a voice. Though not named, this is the soul of Pierre de la Vigne, who was the minister of Frederick II. His soul resides in the tree and is made one with it as punishment for his suicide. As his story makes clear, he was falsely accused out of envy, and, disdaining the disdain, he took his own life. Virgil questions him regarding what will happen to these souls in the final resurrection. The soul of Pierre explains that they, like everyone else, will rise again to claim their bodies. However, they will not be permitted to put them back on. Instead, they will each return to their own tree, with their corpses hung on the branches of their prison. After he finishes this explanation, two frenzied souls not imprisoned in trees, Lano da Siena and Jacopo de Santo Andrea, rush past them, calling after one another. They are being chased by a pack of greyhound-like demons, who tear them apart with their teeth and carry them back. They are two squanderers, and their punishment is to be chased and mauled. This event leads Dante and Virgil to a different tree, where the soul of an unnamed Florentine suicide speaks of his city. As Florence was Christianized, they repurposed a temple originally dedicated to Mars, their first patron, and rededicated it to John the Baptist. As a punishment for this betrayal, this unnamed soul suggests, Mars continues to make Florence sad through his art. In other words, through continual war and strife, Mars will have his revenge on Christianity. The canto ends as the travelers discover that the soul of this suicide took his life, having made for himself a gallows out of his house. Canto 13. Suicides and Squanderers. Nessus had not yet returned to his side when we left the stream and entered a wood not marked even by the dint of a path. No fronds green, only of a somber shade. No branches straight, only knotty and gnarled. No apples there, only poisoned splinters. The savage beasts that hate the cultured lands between the Cecina and Corneto have not such harsh thickets, nor near as thick. There the barbaric harpies make their nests, who hunted Trojans from the Strophides with wretched prophecies of future woe. They have broad wings, human faces and necks, taloned feet and giant feathered bellies. They cry their laments up in the strange trees. My good master, before you go further, know that you are now in the second wheel, he began to tell me, and will be till you come upon those most horrible dunes. Therefore consider well, you will indeed see things that you would have never believed. I heard on every side howls escaping, and saw no one that could be making them. Therefore, totally confused, I halted. I believe he believed I had believed so many voices escaped from that bush, from people who remained hidden from us. Therefore my master said, if you snap off some small branch from one of these nearby plants, the thoughts you have will all be clean cut off. Then I put my hand a little forward and broke off a twig from a great blackthorn, and its stub cried out, Why do you rend me? From the end that was torn bubbled dark blood, and again it spoke, Why tear me apart? Have you not any spirit of pity? Men we were, now we have become brushwood. Truly your hand would have been more kindly if we had all been the souls of serpents. As when a green brand is burned on one end, and from the other end come groans and creaks with the sputtering steam that bubbles up, so from this split twig came both together words and blood. Wherefore I let the tip fall and stood still as one who is terrified. "If he could have but believed beforehand, offended soul," answered my adviser, "that which he has only seen in my rhyme, he would not have stretched out his hand toward you, but the incredibility of it made me make him do what also pains me. But tell him who you are, so that in place of some amends he might refresh your fame in the world above, where he may return." And the stub, "With such sweet speech you lure me that I cannot stay mute. Feel not the weight if I am ensnared to briefly reflect. I am he that held both keys to the heart of Frederick II and turned them, locking and unlocking so pleasingly that I kept almost all from his secrets. I kept faith with the glorious office, such that from it I lost both sleep and strength. That prostitute that never from the house of Caesar turns away its naked eyes, a common death and vice in every court, inflamed against me all the souls with spite. And those inflamed Augustus, so that happy honors turned to sorrows sad. My soul, on account of tasting disdain, believing I could flee disdain with death, turned my unjust self against my just self. But I swear, by the new roots of this wood, I truly never broke faith with my lord, he that was so deserving of honor. If either of you return to the world, let him set straight my memory that lies beneath the guilt that envy provided." The poet waited a little, and then, "Since he is silent," he said to me, "speak, do not waste this time, ask what you will." But I replied, "You question him again concerning what you think will quench my thirst. I am unable, such pity grieves me." Thus he began again, "So may men do to you and more what your speech begs of us, imprisoned spirit. Still let it please you to tell us how the soul tethers itself in these knots, and say if you are able, if ever from such members one escapes." Then the stub sputtered loudly, and after that venting turned itself into this sound. "Briefly will that be answered to you both. When the savage soul parts from that body, the same from which it uprooted itself, Minos sends it here to the seventh mouth. It plunges into the wood, randomly, landing at that place where fortune shoots it. It germinates just like a grain of spelt. It rises a sprout, then a woody plant. The harpies, grazing on its foliage, cause pain, making for the pain an outlet. Like the rest, we will come for our bodies. Not that any will put them on. It is not just to wear what man himself takes off. We will drag them back here, and all throughout this woeful wood our corpses will be hung, each on the tree of the shade that killed it." We were waiting for the stub to say more, thinking there was more it wanted to say, when we were taken aback by a noise, just like the one who listens to the boar and the hunting party draw near his post, and hears the beasts and the branches rustle. And behold, two came up on our left side, naked and scratched, fleeing with such energy they were breaking every bough in the wood. The one in front, "Now hasten, hasten, death!" And the other, who thought himself too slow, cried, "Lano, your legs were not so lively when you were fleeing at the jousts of Topo." And then perhaps his energy failed, for he made of himself and a bush one knot. Behind them the wood was full of bitches, black, voracious, and sprinting after them like greyhounds that have been loosed from their chains. They sank their teeth into the one who tried hiding, tearing him apart piece by piece. They carried off those sorrowful members. Then my protector took me by the hand and led me to that bush who was weeping in vain because of the bleeding wreckage. "Oh, Jacopo de Santo Andrea," it was saying, "did it help you to use me as a shield, making me suffer your guilt?" When my master stood above him, he said, "Who are you, that through the tips of your wounds with blood you breathe a sorrowful lament?" And he to us, "O souls that have come to see this, an obscene mutilation, that has so divided me from my fronds, gather these at the foot of this sad shrub. That city was mine, who for the Baptist exchanged her first patron, whence he, for this, will always make her wretched through his art. Were it not that at the passage of the Arno there still remains some sight of him, those citizens that laid new foundations above Attila's remaining ashes would have labored entirely in vain. From my house I made myself a gallows.